When you look at Indiana after any election, you see a lot of Republican red and some Democrat blue here and there. But a lot of Hoosiers also say they don't want to be forced to choose right or left. And this week, a new organization launched to give those voters more choices. It's called Independent Indiana, and you may see one of their billboards up in cities across the state. Joining me now to talk about it is Nathan Gotsch, Executive Director of Independent Indiana. Thanks so much for being here, Nathan.
Great to be with you.
So when was the moment you said, we need to form this group and get this thing going?
You know, you talked in the open about Republicans and Democrats and then people who might consider themselves independents. The reality is a lot of people who vote for Republicans or Democrats, they're not happy either right now. And as you have more and more conversations with people across the state, you start to hear that. Even when you talk to elected officials, and I know some of them, a lot of them feel like they don't have the freedom to vote when they're in, say, the state legislature the way that they would like to, the way they think is best for their constituents, because they're feeling the pressure from these political parties. And I think it all comes down to the fact that in Indiana, in almost all parts of the state, we don't really have competitive general elections. You know, the primary is what determines who ends up representing us. And so I did a deep dive in 2023 and 2024 election results all across the state of Indiana to see if I could find, some data that would suggest there's a path to get us back to competitive elections. And what I found was really surprising. Independents were starting to run and win all across the state, but I wasn't sure what a number, what number would be significant. So I spoke to a former Republican state chair and I asked him, I said, what would surprise you? What would be a number to suggest something big is going on? He said, well, if 50 independents got on the ballot, and these are for partisan races, we're not talking about school board. We're talking about, you can be a Republican, Democrat, you can run as an independent. He said if 50 independents ran, well, the actual number was 244. Now, his follow-up question was, okay, but how many of them won? So I asked him, I said, what's your guess? He said, oh, maybe 5%. Well, the number, Dustin, is 52%. 52% of independents won their elections the last 2 years. And just to give you some context for that, we did an analysis of every single election, all the Republicans, all the Democrats. During that same period, the success rate for Republicans was 61%. For Democrats, it was 35%.
Well, and I thought what was also interesting, Nathan, was that nearly a third of independents who lost in that time still got 30 to 49% of the vote.
Yeah, so that indicates to us that these are not spoiler candidates. These are the people that if they had access to information and to resources to help them do better, they would be doing better. And so we formed Independent Indiana to really help spread the word, number one, that independents are already out there and they're doing better than we think, and to provide those resources, to provide that information for people who might be thinking about running as an independent in the future.
So what tangibly does that look like? We're seeing the billboards out there, but specifically, how do you plan on supporting these people?
We want to provide toolkits for people that are thinking of running for office. We want to also match them up with mentors. There's a lot of people who have run for office in the past and been successful who are not happy with the way maybe that their party has been moving, but they have a wealth of knowledge. We want to try to connect some of these mentors. The way people can find out what we're doing, and if they want to be a part of this or learn about our toolkit, they can go to independentindiana.org, sign up for updates. We're going to be laying out a lot of different things over the next few weeks. We know that it's not just a matter of putting up a couple of billboards around the state saying, hey, more independents are running and winning. It's going to be a multi-pronged effort. And as a part of that, we're also studying how we might be able to help these types of candidates do better in the bigger races. Because right now, the structural barriers, specifically straight ticket voting, Indiana is one of only 6 states that still has straight ticket voting, and also the signature requirements that really get more and more burdensome as the races get bigger. Those are really big roadblocks for independents here in the state of Indiana.
You mentioned the roadblocks. What do you say to those who look at the power of the Republican Party, the power of the Democratic Party, the deep pockets, and just say this is too big of a hill to climb and conquer, too big to compete on the big scale?
It's something that I've heard from a lot of people, but what many of them don't realize is a lot of those people who have been writing big checks, a lot of those insiders, they're not happy with their party right now either. And I've had meetings and conversations with a lot of them. They want to see competition. They understand that when we are a one-party rule state, which is what Mitch Daniels wrote in the Washington Post a year ago, and he wasn't excited about that. When that happens, the whole community and really the whole state starts to suffer.
Nathan Gotsch, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.